He looked me in the eyes and said, "Wait here. I'll be right back." I watched him walk away, and he never came back. Minutes turned into hours, hours into days. That was 14 years ago. But the strangest part wasn't that he disappeared. It's what I found when I finally decided to look for him. If you think you know someone, this story might make you think twice. Have you ever had that moment when someone asks you to wait, and you just wait? Without questioning, without doubting. You just wait. My name is Elena, and I waited. I waited for someone I thought I knew better than anyone else in the world. Someone I trusted completely. This is the story of how I discovered that you never, ever, truly know someone. It was October 2010. I was 19 years old and had been engaged to Diego for 6 months. I'd known him since I was 15. We were neighbors, best friends, then boyfriend and girlfriend. I thought he was my soulmate. That Saturday, we woke up late. Diego was different, restless. He kept looking out the window, constantly checking his phone. When I asked if everything was okay, he just smiled and said we needed to go out. We went to Oakwood Cemetery, the old cemetery on the outskirts of town. Strange place for a date, but Diego was always peculiar. We walked among the old headstones, some so worn you could barely read the names. That's when we reached the oldest part of the cemetery. Diego stopped abruptly in front of a dark stone mausoleum. His hands were shaking. He turned to me, took my face in his hands and said, "Elena, I love you more than anything in this life. You know that, right?" I laughed nervously and said yes. Then he pointed to a stone bench near the mausoleum and said, "Sit there and wait for me. I need to do something real quick. I promise I'll be back in a few minutes. Just don't leave that spot, okay? It's important." So I sat and waited. 5 minutes, 10, 15. The sun began to set. The cemetery became shadowy, filled with long shadows between the headstones. I started getting nervous. An hour passed. 2. I called his name several times. Nothing, just the echo of my own voice coming back between the old stones. My phone had no signal. Of course it didn't. That part of the cemetery was a dead zone, in terms of coverage. When it got completely dark, I finally stood up. I ran to where my car was parked at the cemetery entrance. With trembling hands, I managed to call the police. The police said they'd need to wait 48 hours before considering someone missing, but they came, asked some basic questions, searched superficially. Diego had evaporated. In the following days, I did everything I could. I called all his friends, his family. Nobody knew anything. His parents were desperate. The police expanded their search. Bloodhounds, helicopters. They searched the entire cemetery, the surrounding forest, the nearby lake. Nothing. But there was something strange. When I went to his apartment to get some things to help with the investigation, I found his passport, wallet, credit cards. Everything was there. And there was something else. Something that sent chills down my spine. On his nightstand, I found a notebook I'd never seen before. Pages and pages of notes about me. My daily routine. What time I left home, which bus I took, where I had lunch, what I wore on specific days, as if he had been studying me. Months passed, then years. The police closed the case. His parents moved to how do you move forward when the person you loved most simply disappears. It was only last year, 13 years later, that I decided to do my own investigation. I hired a private detective named Roberto Silva. Roberto had unconventional methods. He managed to access records that the police hadn't checked at the time. Registry records, certificates, old databases. And that's when we discovered the first real clue. Diego Henrique Almeida, the man I was engaged to, never existed, voice trembling. The social security number was fake. The birth certificate, forged. Even the school records where we met had been manipulated. For 4 years of my life, I had been in love with a ghost. But Roberto didn't stop there. He traced the fingerprints that Diego had left in my apartment. On glasses, plates, personal things, the fingerprints matched someone in the system, Carlos Eduardo Santos, 34 years old, wanted by the FBI for a series of crimes in 5 different states: kidnapping, extortion, and murder. But the most terrifying part was yet to come. Roberto discovered that Carlos, or Diego as I knew him, had a pattern. He would approach young women, gain their complete trust, and then we found records of at least 7 other women, all between 18 and 22 years old. All disappeared after being taken to isolated places. All were found dead weeks later. All. Except me. Why was I different? Why did he tell me to wait instead of... 2 weeks ago, Roberto and I returned to Oakwood Cemetery, this time with excavation equipment and legal permission. We went straight to the mausoleum where Diego had disappeared. Roberto had a disturbing theory about why he took me specifically there. 2 meters deep, we found a rusty metal box. Inside it, photographs. Hundreds of photographs, all of me, since I was 12 years old, walking to school, playing in the backyard. Sleeping in my room with the window open, he had been watching me for years before we met. And at the bottom of the box, a handwritten note. Elena is special. She can't be like the others. She needs to wait. When I finish my work, I'll come back for her. She'll be the last one, the perfect one. It's been 14 years since he told me to wait. Carlos Eduardo Santos was never captured. He's still out there, somewhere and sometimes, especially at night. I have the feeling he's still watching me, waiting for the right moment to come back, to finish what he started in that cemetery. So next time someone you love asks you to wait, maybe you should ask why. Because sometimes waiting might be the last thing you'll ever do.